Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Get Real with your host, Michael Atencio. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is both fascinating and a little bit eerie. It's a topic that has been the subject of many superstitions and beliefs throughout history. That's right, today we're going to talk about death superstitions and beliefs. Now, I know that talking about death can be uncomfortable for some people, but it's an essential part of life. Death is something that we will all experience at some point, and it's something that we should all be prepared for. One way that people have prepared for death throughout history is through superstitions and beliefs. One of the most common death superstitions is the idea that you should cover mirrors in a house where someone has died. The belief is that the spirit of the deceased may become trapped in the mirror, and covering it prevents this from happening. This superstition is prevalent in many cultures, including Western and Eastern cultures. Although there is no scientific evidence to support this belief, it is still widely practiced today. Another death superstition is the idea that you should open a window in a room where someone has died. The belief is that this allows the spirit of the deceased to escape and move on to the afterlife. This superstition is also prevalent in many cultures and is often practiced alongside covering mirrors. In Native American culture, death is viewed differently than in Western culture. In Native American culture, death is seen as a natural part of life, and the dead are respected and honored. Native Americans believe that the spirits of the dead remain among the living, and they often leave offerings for the spirits. Some Native American tribes believe that the spirits of the dead can communicate with the living through dreams. Another death superstition that you may have heard of is the idea that you should hold your breath when walking through a graveyard. The belief is that if you breathe in the spirit of the dead, you may become possessed by it. This superstition is prevalent in many cultures, and some people still practice it today. In many cultures around the world, there are specific death traditions that have been used since the beginning of time. These traditions vary widely from culture to culture and can be both fascinating and unusual. For example, in Tibet, a person's body is often left outside to be eaten by vultures, as it is believed that this will help the soul reach the afterlife more quickly. In some African cultures, the body of the deceased is covered in white clay before burial, symbolizing a return to the earth. In Japan, there is a tradition called kotsuaga, which involves the family members of the deceased using chopsticks to pick up the bones of the deceased and place them in an urn. This tradition may seem unusual to Westerners, but it is a common practice in Japan. In Mexico, the Day of the Dead is a holiday that is celebrated every year on November 1st and 2nd. During this holiday, families gather to remember and honor their loved ones who have died. They build altars, offer food and drink, and decorate grave sites with flowers and candles. This tradition is a celebration of life and death and is an essential part of Mexican culture. In Ghana, the fantasy coffin tradition involves creating a coffin that reflects the life of the deceased. For example, if the deceased was a fisherman, the coffin may be in the shape of a fish. This tradition is a way of celebrating the life of the deceased and honoring their profession. As you can see, there are many unusual and fascinating death traditions and beliefs from around the world. Although these beliefs and traditions may seem strange to us, they are an essential part of the cultures from which they originated. They offer a unique insight into how different cultures view death and the afterlife. These traditions and beliefs also serve as a way of coping with the loss of a loved one and provide comfort to those who are grieving. It's important to remember that everyone has their beliefs and traditions surrounding death. It's crucial to respect and honor these beliefs, even if they are different from our own. Death is a universal experience, and how we cope with it varies from person to person. One way to cope with death is through rituals and traditions. These traditions offer a sense of comfort and provide a way to remember and honor the deceased. They allow us to come together as a community and support each other during difficult times. It's also essential to talk about death openly and honestly. We should discuss our wishes for after we die with our loved ones and make plans for our final arrangements. It can be uncomfortable to talk about death, but it's necessary to ensure that our wishes are respected and that our loved ones are prepared. In conclusion, death superstitions and beliefs have been around since the beginning of time. They offer a unique insight into how different cultures view death and the afterlife. These traditions and beliefs provide comfort and support to those who are grieving and allow us to come together as a community to honor and remember the deceased. Remember to respect and honor the beliefs and traditions of others, even if they are different from your own. Talk openly and honestly about death with your loved ones and make plans for your final arrangements. Death is a natural part of life, and it's essential to be prepared for it. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Get Real. Until next time, take care